Have you learned what Saturn has been teaching you whilst in the sign of Pisces? Later this week, he is going to station direct in the sign of Pisces, that mutable water sign. And he's only going to be transiting through Pisces for another 2.5 months before he then makes his ingress back into Aries. And I say back into Aries because he was in Aries for a brief period of time before he retrograded back into Pisces to cover old ground. There's been a lot of this with the planets, as you may know if you've watched other astrology reports of mine. They've been hovering over that cusp point, heightening and activating that energy of endings and beginnings, going back over old ground as part of their retrograde, where we do have that opportunity to introspect, review and reflect in order to close out cycles and then to start anew. There's been a lot of that going on with big hitting planets, very much the powerful planets that we're dealing with here. And Saturn is no exception. He is grand. He makes a statement. He is a taskmaster. He is a great teacher. But he will serve up lessons and he will teach what he needs to teach in a harsh way sometimes because he takes emotion out of things. He just wants us to get things done. So in the sign of Pisces, not a very comfortable place. Certainly Pisces doesn't really like having Saturn in that sign because, you know, he's bringing this kind of force of structure and rules and boundaries. And Pisces is more go with the flow, let's just see how it goes, and can be quite up in the clouds. You know, a lot of people would perceive the energy to be up in the clouds, but there is a heightened intuition to Pisces, which cannot be ignored with everything that's been going on. And certainly with what Neptune's been revealing, we're being shown and we're being encouraged to connect more with our intuition, to embrace more of that Piscean essence within us, if you like, that inner compass within. But Saturn is bringing rules and structure to that energy because we've got to get in alignment with our soul's truth. Have you been operating from a place of your soul's truth? Or have the last few years woken you up to the fact that maybe you need to put boundaries in place because things are not in alignment with your soul's truth? Now, when you think of your own spiritual values, and even if you don't consider yourself to be spiritual, this is about your soul's truth. This is about what sits right with you within the soul and what doesn't. And if you are doing things that's in alignment with your soul's truth or not. Of course, we've got the North Node in Pisces at this moment in time. So the path is the ethereal path of connecting with one's intuition, trusting and flowing with that confidently, knowing that our inner compass is guiding us to where we need to be. So, of course, Saturn is assisting with this because he wants us in alignment with our soul's truth. And if we have to understand that we've not had boundaries in place, you know, we might have had to go through lessons that's really taught us a thing or two about boundaries. So these are all for our highest good, to get us in alignment with our soul's truth. Okay. At the end of this week, towards the end of this week, he is going to station direct in Pisces, and then he will transit Pisces for another 2.5 months approximately until mid-Feb next year, 2026, where he ingresses into Aries. So once again, he is going to hit that final anaretic degree of Pisces, closing out a cycle, and then he will start a new cycle in Aries. And at that point, he is going to be in a conjunction, 0 degrees Aries, with Neptune, because Neptune, interestingly, will station direct in Pisces after Saturn does, but will move into Aries before Saturn. So they are still working together as a bit of a task team to awaken us to the truth. Okay, the truth within ourselves, which we are realizing it is part of the awakening experience. And for those of us already awake, it's part of the ascension experience to become more aware of these things. Okay. So it's intense energy. It's still intense energy. But of course, with that underlying theme of soul's truth, alignment with soul values, and closing out cycles that do not support that anymore. Served a purpose, but they don't support it anymore. And he's wrapping up his time in Pisces. We're moving into, Saturn in Aries. So there's going to be different lessons. There's going to be different tests. And he gave us a taster of that when he did move into Aries before, for that brief period of time. It gave us Pisceans a bit of a break. But actually, we're all being tested on different things. And it can be a number of things. It could be one thing. It could be nothing if we're just not aware of anything that's going on. Okay? But if we're aligned with the energy and we're fully aware of things that are coming up for us to see and understand, then we're aligned with what's going on, as above, so below. Okay, so this is recognizing that Neptune is still lifting the veil, but this is now with the conjunction with Saturn when they are both in Aries. This is about sovereignty. Our sovereignty is at stake here. Okay, this is about focusing on the self and moving forward from a place of what we want to achieve. We want this, we want to go for this. And it is that cardinal energy of Aries to drive us forward. It's also the start of a cycle. Okay? So wrapping up the time of Saturn in Pisces is very important to close out those lessons, or to at least have that wisdom that we've gained from the lessons in order to move forward when he ingresses into Aries. Okay, it's a new cycle, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, as they say at that point. So we've got 2.5 months window of opportunity to really take on board what Saturn has been teaching us whilst in the sign of Pisces. And you might be thinking, why is this such a big deal? Well, are you aware of the energy at the moment? I mean, it's quite intense. It's significant transformation that's going on. And lots of lessons, lots of challenges, lots of things that we're having to overcome. This year, 2025, is a 9-year. It is all about releasing. It is about shedding the layers that do not serve us. So this is why we've had to close out cycles. We've had to understand through illumination, through eclipses, through other situations of what is not right for us anymore. It might have served a purpose at a time, at a point, I was going to say, but no longer, because it's not in alignment with the soul's truth. As we evolve, things are naturally going to fall out of alignment, but we might be holding on to the old because it's familiar. There might be fears attached to it. A number of things could be revealed and could have been revealed. Okay. But the reason why it is significant is because this is profound change that we are entering into as a humanity, as a collective, and we're all responsible for our own journey, of course, as part of this. And as we move forward into 2026, 2026, that then makes 10, which reduces to a 1. That is about the self. Bit of a theme here, because I've just mentioned that Saturn in Aries is then going to be lessons that relate to sovereignty, which is about the self. So it's tied in with that. And what we've learnt, that data that we've collected on our own experiences and situations to get us in alignment with our soul's truth, empowers us to then say confidently, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, okay, and this is what I'm moving in the direction of. So it's all for our highest good, but it could have obviously come through lessons. And the significance, again, because I keep kind of circling round that, is the fact that Saturn takes roughly 29 and a half years to orbit the sun. Okay, so when we think of Saturn return, it's usually 29 years. Okay, it can be 28, 29 years to get back to the same position. He's not going to be back in Pisces until 2052. So I think it's probably 2055 when he gets to the degrees of the return of, that which I'm speaking about now. But actually being in Pisces, entering Pisces again, I believe it's 2052. Even though some things online do not say the truth. The technological tools that are available, for example. So a lot of that, you've got to use your discernment with it. Okay. Because he's going to be in Aries, he's going to be going through the zodiac. Of course, there will be retrogrades happening, but he's going to be back in Pisces. In Western astrology, this is not Vedic astrology, 2052. So how old are you going to be at that point? Okay, this is about using this window of opportunity whilst we have it now. Okay, and not waiting for him to come back around and teach us the same stuff again, because that's a lot of time to be circling back round. Okay, so that's why there is this significance. These next 2.5 months, okay, are pivotal in terms of Saturnian lessons and soul alignment. It's alignment with soul's truth, spiritual integrity. Okay, so if that's resonating with you, this is part of Saturn's quest. Okay, I've got the charts I'm going to show you. I will pull that up. And I've also got the chart for when he stations direct, when he stations direct, and when he ingresses into Aries. Okay, we've still got Mercury retrograde going on, but the good news is Mercury is going to station direct, and that will happen the day after, actually, Saturn stations direct. So these planets are beginning to switch back on. Okay, so there's going to feel like there's more momentum in the energy, which is positive, and we are now in Sagittarius season. So there is more of a mutable flow and a boost to the energy as well. Still some things we've got to take on board and learn and discover. So we might feel a bit stuck because we're still having to introspect on things, but recognize it's a temporary thing, it's transient. But we have to understand that's why the retrogrades are here to support us with introspection on various aspects. You know, if there's been a lot coming up, we've got to digest it somehow, and we've got to process what's coming up so that we really do learn and gain that wisdom. Okay, so that's to empower us to move forward. Let me pull up the first chart and I'll show you. I'll try and make it as brief as I can. I do go into detail with these charts because I just feel that there's so many insights, you know, that's useful for people. Okay, so this is the moment that Saturn stations direct in Pisces. It's going to happen for us in the UK on GMT. It's the 28th of November at 3:52 a.m. But you can see there it's actually 3:51:34 to be exact. That is the moment that he stations direct in Pisces. So for those of you in America, it's going to be on the 27th of November. Apply your own time zones as appropriate. Okay, so Saturn. Still very close to Neptune, 4 degrees orb, and Neptune will still be in retrograde. But as I mentioned before, he will actually station direct after Saturn, but will move into Aries before Saturn. So he's going to kind of be there to prepare, you know, for Saturn's arrival, if you like. And I do feel that there is a further awakening that could be happening at that time. Okay, it's a big move. It's a big move of these planets. So that can bring that intensity and certainly further illumination as well. So here, you know, Neptune and Saturn are close by and they're both in this grand trine. Of course, we've got this water energy that is forming a lovely harmonious trine. And we've got Jupiter in the mix here, retrograde in Cancer, with past Fortuna close by at this point. And also we have got Mercury currently in retrograde, but as I say, will soon be stationing direct after this. Okay, I think it's 13 hours 47, something like that, after this. And then Venus as well, okay, who is making her way towards the final degrees of Scorpio. So we're still needing to be honest about where we're investing our resources and worth and value and such. Okay, that's also part of these lessons as well. All of the energy works together. It's a bigger picture. But here, you know, this lovely trine, the cardinal energy that drives it forward is Cancer. So it's being open with the Jupiter retrograde, being open to what is being revealed from what Neptune is still showing us, what Saturn has been teaching us and will continue to teach us whilst in Pisces, but particularly, you know, what have we learned during his retrograde of recent weeks, recent months, and how does that apply to, you know, what we've learned and understood about our communication, our expression, so that honest communication we need to have with ourselves and other people, okay, to be quite blunt, to be raw and real. That's also soul's truth, if we're being authentic and being ourselves, but also our thoughts, how we are communicating with ourselves, getting that mindset shift into place in alignment with what we're trying to achieve and in alignment with our soul's values as well. And then Venus, getting honest and real about where we are investing our inner resources, our time, our energy, our love, our attention, our money, and being honest about the adjustments that are needed because of what's being shown to us. Okay. And also, our worth and values are part of this as well. So as Saturn is showing us and has been showing us, about boundaries, for example. So have we not felt worthy enough of putting them in place because we're too much of a people pleaser? Are we needing to focus more on what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to create? Because, of course, Venus is feminine energy. It is about creation, and we need to nurture ourselves through this process as well. So are we being honest with ourselves, and are we being kind to ourselves through this process of trying to create what we want to achieve in our reality? So it's a harmonious trine. There is flow to this energy because it's water. It feels quite soft, but of course, the things that are being revealed might feel harsh at the time, okay, depending on what it is. But we're needing to be aware of these things and to feel them in order to recognize what lesson is coming from that. Okay, and how we can then communicate if we need to, how we can adjust and pivot our investments if we need to put boundaries in place. And in turn, although it's driven from the cardinal energy, it also fuels that inner expansion that we can gain from Jupiter being in retrograde and receiving the benefic energy that Jupiter can bring. There is also a spiritual connection to Jupiter. He does rule Sagittarius as a modern day ruler, but was the original ruler of Pisces before Neptune was discovered. So there is spiritual expansion and enlightenment here as part of all of this. So the wisdom we're gaining from what Saturn has already shown us, it might not feel like it, but actually we are becoming more wise and more spiritually enlightened as a result. And that is where the success is, because Pars Fortuna is there as well. So that's going to really enhance our journey, okay, in terms of going forward. And interestingly, even though Saturn and Neptune are close by, that's the only aspect where Saturn is involved, that trine. So that's powerful and it's positive. Okay, so he stations direct, and it's like, right, now let's focus on moving forward these 2.5 months. Let's make sure that we are really embedding in that wisdom of what Saturn has been showing us. The other aspects here that are from this area are actually to and from Neptune. Okay, so there is a sextile to both Uranus, currently retrograde in Taurus, as we know, and also Pluto in Aquarius. So what Neptune is showing us is absolutely driven by change and transformation, but it is enabling the change to happen. I feel as well with what's being revealed, and certainly when we look at Uranus in Taurus, where we might be needing to look at our sense of inner security and stability, as well as worth and values as well. But also when we look at our physical reality and how things might be changing or need to change, Neptune has been showing us that, as well as what Saturn has been teaching us. But it's what is being revealed and our connection with our intuition, because Neptune is also encouraging us to connect more with source energy within. That's enabling us to understand where change is needed in our physical reality. And also if we need to take a bit of a step away from a comfort zone, and how that's also informing this profound transformation that's going on. Okay, this new reality that we're moving forward into, the age of Aquarius and all of that. There is a semi-square to Pallas from Neptune. Okay, so there is a need to strategize and plan what we are trying to achieve based on what is being revealed. So if we're learning these lessons, we become aware of things that Neptune's showing us. Maybe there's a lot and we need to write it down, or maybe we need to just have a strategic approach in terms of how we are going to deal with what has come up for us. So if, for example, it's something that's been shown to us, or Saturn has taught us something relating to a Venus value, and we need to put boundaries in place, it might not be so easy to put a boundary in place straight away. So we need to perhaps strategize it. Well, I could make a little change here and see how that goes, see how I feel with that. And then I can, enhance it by doing X, Y, and Z. It depends on the situation. And I'm just using that as an example. Remember, we're in Sag season. So we're learning and discovering more and more as we're on our quest. And that's motivating us to keep going in terms of understanding what's coming up for us. But ultimately, it's about the new reality. We're wanting to fight for our new reality. It's having that warrior spirit within, because Pallas is an asteroid that is a warrior. Okay, and it's kind of like supporting cast to Mars, because it is fighting for what we want, but there is a need for strategy and planning. Whereas Mars just wants to obviously take action, but we need the underlying strategy and planning. So based on what's coming up, we need to understand, right, okay, so that's shown me this, that hasn't been working for me. So in order for me to move forward, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And it kind of helps the process in that respect, because it's still taking action, but it's doing it in a strategic way. And that might be where the challenge is, because in relation to this, we have got Mars over here, who is in a conjunction with Lilith retrograde in Sag, and Juno is also close by. They're both, or I should say that they are all, because, I'm counting Mars and Lilith as one because of the conjunction, but all of them are in a square still to the North Node and South Node. So it's just that Lilith has joined the mix because of the conjunction, because Mars and Juno have been in this square for some time. So it's about committed action. And we might feel like we're in a bit of a holding point, a bit stuck between the past and where we're going, because we're needing to understand what's coming up for us to process in order for us to then move forward. But the strategizing is still moving forward, even if it doesn't feel like it. So that is possibly one of the messages here. And certainly at the point that Saturn stations direct, and it's almost like Saturn is saying, right, I'm now direct in Pisces. We've got 2.5 months to get you in alignment with your soul's truth, because I'm going to then take another 29 years to go round the entire zodiac before I'm back to see if actually you have learnt your lesson. And I don't think any of you want to wait that long. And all of us are probably going, no, we don't want to wait that long. So let's get in alignment with our soul's truth now. So it's recognizing all these pieces of the puzzle that's coming up at this time. Okay. And with Mars, in that conjunction with Lilith retrograde, we have got to go within as part of this and understand if there's any shadow aspects we need to look at, but also suppression of what we're trying to achieve. So, we might have had big plans for ourselves and we've not achieved it for whatever reason. And we could be being hard on ourselves, or we could have suppressed what we actually really want to do because we don't feel we can do it. So there is this need to evaluate worth and values with that as well. So it's a bigger picture, and it could be playing out differently for many people, if at all, if any of this is resonating with you. I mean, if it's not, you would have clicked off already, I'm sure. But, it's being committed to what is coming up and recognizing that there is still action that can be taken. It just might feel like it's slow moving because we're still amongst other retrograde energy. So we're still taking on board what is coming up and processing, what we're being shown, what we're being taught, the various lessons, the tests that we're kind of facing. And ultimately, it's to get us into a deeper connection with self and a deeper connection to our intuition to guide us forward. The moon will be in Pisces at this point. Okay, so it is the most sensitive place for the moon to be, but it does support that energy of feeling into things. It can just bring up sensitivities and emotions. So the square that is going to Uranus and also the sun, this is about this kind of resistance to go there in the feelings when it relates to soul change. So this soul rebirth that we are kind of going through, and we've just come from Scorpio season where we've had to go deep as well on a soul level. It's uncovering stuff from the depths, and that can feel uncomfortable, but also it can bring up sensitivities like, okay, that's had to be shown to me because I need to understand the boundary is needed. But the way it's been shown to me has actually been quite hurtful, but I've needed to feel that in order to recognize what change is needed. It's just the challenge comes from, does my soul want to go there in terms of that? Does my emotional home want to go there in terms of needing to feel it? Well, yes, because otherwise, how do we know it's uncomfortable? How do we know it's right for us or wrong for us? It can just bring a bit of a challenge to that because of the sensitivities, is what I would say. Okay. Now I am going to move to the next chart. Okay, so that's when Saturn stations direct in Pisces, and then, as I say, we've got 2.5 months approximately until he ingresses into Aries. So this is going to happen, and I've made a joke about this before, that for the UK on GMT, it's only just, but it's the 14th of Feb. Happy Valentine's Day to us, fellow Pisceans out there. yeah, he's going to ingress out of Pisces into Aries on Valentine's Day. Let's let off the party poppers. But as I say, we're not immune to this movement into Aries. Okay. It's just, the period of time since the 7th of March, 2023, with the exception of that period of time that he did spend in Aries as a bit of a taster, but 3 years, in a sign, testing spiritual integrity and the soul's truth, has been quite an intense period. And I'm sure many of you will also resonate with that. So 14th of February, it is a Valentine's gift, where he moves into Aries. Okay. And, of course, for other people in the world, it's going to be the 13th of February. So apply your own time zones. Okay. So it's actually like 12 minutes past midnight, but I've put there, the seconds as well to be absolutely transparent with the moment that he does ingress at 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aries. And you can see there that conjunction with Neptune, because Neptune would have already arrived and he's getting things ready for Saturn. So this is, again, moving from Pisces into Aries when we think of Saturn, okay, and Neptune to some extent. But Pisces to Aries is not just moving from sign to sign. It is, of course, there's an aspect of that. But Pisces represents the end of an astrological year. So even though we're not quite there yet, when this chart comes up, we'll be in Aquarius season. Okay, so we've not even hit Pisces season at this point. But what I'm saying is the energy of Pisces in terms of the end of an astrological year is a major ending. Okay, it's closing out a major ending to move forward into a brand new beginning. Aries is the start of the zodiac. Okay, so it is a significant move and it's a significant power move. And if we can align with that energy and we've closed out these lessons that have tested our spiritual integrity and we're in alignment with our soul's truth, and then we move forward empowered with that Aries cardinal energy and that drive to go after what we want, that is extremely powerful. Okay, it's another ending beginning. Okay, and recognize that this energy is here to support us. Few things to note in the chart. So we have got a sextile to Uranus, who will also be direct at this point in Taurus. Okay, so it's still very much promoting and supporting the change that we're wanting to experience in our physical reality. There is a semi-square that is going to Mars and Vesta. So these two are close together in Aquarius now. And what I found interesting was, in the last chart, if you remember, Mars and Lilith were conjunct at 17 degrees of Sag. And then we had Juno close by at 18. But you can actually see Juno, because of the movement, is there in Capricorn at 16. So it's like 16, 17, whereas we had 17, 18. That's, I don't know, those numbers might mean something to someone. I just found that very interesting, even though it's different signs, of course, but it was something that came to me. Okay, so those numbers might be significant for some people. But Mars, is still wanting to take action. Now, with the Aquarius energy, there is something about this technological age we are moving into, we're already in, but we're moving into, okay, and how that's supporting us. So taking action that is utilizing the tools that we have to hand, okay, but utilizing them not as a replacement, and using discernment always, okay, because it's very new. But this is about embracing the new reality and how that can support us. But not only that, from a humanitarian perspective, because Aquarius rules the 11th house, and that is, collective, it's community with others, connections with others, and so on. So there can be a humanitarian aspect now to the action that we're wanting to take. It's like a bigger picture. So we've understood our soul's truth, and now we hit that Saturn at 0 degrees Aries, and it's like an awakening with Neptune there as well, to perhaps how what we're doing could impact people on a wider scale. Okay, and that might only resonate with some as light workers in the collective, but having a deeper purpose generally to what we're doing, because we've understood our soul's truth. And with Vesta close by, so they're conjunct, not exact 1 degree orb, of course, but that is about the sacred flame. So we've understood potentially from those Saturnian lessons in Pisces what sparks that flame within us, within our soul particularly, and what inspires us to go towards what we want. So the fact that they're close together is great because we've got like action, but it's based on the sacred flame. So we've kind of understood the memo. And with the sun in Aquarius, because we will be in Aquarius season at that point, we're supported on a soul level by what we're trying to achieve. Okay, but this semi-square is just saying, okay, it could just still be minor challenge in the energy where, we're still trying to awaken to certain things, or things are still trying to come through to make an appearance, to be real for us, okay, to come into that reality for us, so that we understand the action that we are aligned with, okay, in terms of our new reality. The moon will be in Capricorn at this point. Detrimental position for the moon because it's the opposite sign to that which it rules. Cancer, of course. But this is about taking emotion out of it, remember, which is what Saturn likes. So even though the moon is in Capricorn, it can feel quite harsh. It feels almost like it's a bit of this is a signal point to be like, right, this is go time. I have learnt my lessons whilst Saturn was in Pisces, and Saturn rules Capricorn. Okay, so he's going to love the fact that we just take emotion out of it and say, right, this is what we got to do. This is the path forward. This is what we need to do. So there's drive, there's determination, and there is focus based on what we've learned. And remember, this is just aligning with the energy if we wish to align with it, because we've got free will. Okay, we don't have to align with anything. This is about free will comes into play. But if it's something that you're wanting to move forward in terms of your life, your reality, this is a power move, okay, because this is about the cardinal energy of Aries supporting Saturn. If we've closed out those cycles not serving us, and then we can have focus in our emotional home, plus on a soul level, have that bigger perspective picture of the fact that, what we're doing has a greater impact because it's more aligned with our soul, it's more aligned with our sacred flame. That is going to be very powerful for us. Now, also, there is a trine, harmonious aspect to Lilith. And Lilith is at 29 degrees in retrograde of Scorpio. So shadow aspects, okay, this feels like, because 29 is at the end and Saturn and Neptune are both at 0, the start, this is like, we have closed out a massive cycle of shadows here. Okay, shadow work. It's not to say that it's over completely, because things come up on our journey. We are always evolving. But this is about closing out a major cycle where we've had to be honest and real with shadow aspects. And Saturn has helped us with that. Neptune has helped us with that. So this is that appreciation within the energy here, that there is a trying to say, right, we can close things out now because we've understood, we've got the memo. Lilith is in a challenging square to the midheaven of the chart, Leo, and also the sun. So there does need to be some courage to pursue soul aspirations here. Okay, to not get drawn back into the shadow aspects or to start suppressing things down again. This is about powering forward with the belief on a soul aspirational level, with the courage to see it through and to show up inspired by your own authentic self. Okay, that also enables the close out of the shadow aspects, or at least working towards that, but with an empowered vision of that. Okay, there is a sesqui square to Poseidon, who is also retrograde in Scorpio. But although I've not marked it up on here, Poseidon is in a grand trine with Jupiter and also Mercury in Pisces. That's very ethereal communication. That is intuitive communication, maybe even telepathic communication on some level. But this is about understanding that, yeah, okay, there might still be some challenges with what we've had to understand that's come up from the depths of the metaphorical ocean, what's been churned up. But because of that trine, and the openness and the inner growth, and the fact that it's supporting that ethereal communication, so connecting more with our intuition, it's enabled us to do that. It feels like we are now in charge, if we allow ourselves to be, of churning the ocean up for ourselves. So as and when we come across certain things that we know don't align with our spiritual truth, we can churn the ocean up, we can allow it to come up, see it for what it is, process it, deal with it, move on, because our intuition is getting stronger at this point as we are aligning more with that source connection within. That's what that feels like. Okay. So we turn that slight minor challenge into a positive. Okay. The other interesting thing here is when I looked at this, I thought, wow, there is nothing making an aspect to Pluto. And Pluto is a massive force and has been. Certainly, you know, when he was towards the end of Capricorn, but then moving into Aquarius. And do you know what this feels like? Because this is not saying there's no transformation going on, because believe me, there is transformation going on, and it's profound. It's not surface level. This is Pluto. This is going deep. Soul rebirth energy. But at this particular point, because remember, it's a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time that Saturn stations 0 degrees of Aries, ingresses, okay, into Aries at 0 degrees. This is about learning those lessons. And Pluto sitting back for that moment and taking a breath and almost saying, they've got this. And I know that sounds cheesy, me saying it, but it is like a bit of a step back, because you've got this, like, you know what you're doing. Saturn in Aries, that empowerment, it's almost like, it feels like flying solo. It's kind of like, you can do this, you've got this. It just really feels powerful like that. And it's to do with this profound soul rebirth. So of course there's going to be aspects, you know, the planets, the planetary bodies, the luminaries, they move. So there's going to be aspects made to Pluto. Okay, this is not the be all and end all, but at this particular moment, it just feels like, you know, Saturn closing out his time in Pisces, learning those lessons is a time for Pluto to just breathe and be like, yeah, you got this. You know what you're doing. You know the direction you're heading towards. Okay, we might need a reminder of that every now and then, but you've got this. And that I felt was extremely positive when I saw it. Okay, because it is about us up-leveling into this new reality that we're moving into. Very, very powerful. Okay, and the lunar nodes, you know, there's still going to be North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo up till, you know, July 2026, when they're going to change. So we've still got that path forward in terms of trusting intuition and detaching from cycles of the past that are no longer serving us, where we've had these kind of outdated perspectives or perceptions or even expectations of how things should be, how they should look. It's about using the Virgo energy of the planning and, you know, getting things in order as a springboard more towards the Pisces element of, you know, flow and surrender, because we've got this, because we've got that as a springboard, but not having expectations of how things should be. It's more about trusting, because we've got it. We've got that connection with our intuition to trust our intuition. That's the source energy within us. Okay. And building that up over time, throughout this period, and certainly what Saturn has been teaching us, if we've taken on board those lessons, it's enhanced our intuitive capabilities. So it feels particularly powerful. Okay, so I'll stop sharing there. So remember, Saturn will station direct in Pisces towards the end of this week, 27th or 28th of November, depending on where you are in the world. It's 28th for the UK on GMT. And then 2.5 months later, approximately, 13th or 14th of February 2026 is when he ingresses into Aries. For us in the UK, it is on Valentine's Day, the 14th of February. And that will be a significant power move in terms of what we've closed out whilst he's in Pisces. Because put it this way, if we've learnt those lessons and we've gained that wisdom within, we've connected deeper to our intuition, our wisdom bank has grown because we've understood the lessons. We've understood why certain things have happened. We've understood why we've needed boundaries, or where we've taken, you know, well, say where we've taken, what do I want to say? I have to be careful what I say here, but more so about where our power has been taken away from us, or where we've given our power away is probably a better way of saying it. You know, where we've kind of taken a step back when it comes to our power, where we've needed to be at the forefront. We've kind of allowed it to happen. You know, we need to take responsibility for that. That's my kind of loose way of saying it, but it's, you know, when we look at Saturn and we look at like the 10th house, inner authority. So yeah, where have we given our power away when really we needed to be absolutely driven by what we want? So it's recognizing all of that, but alignment with soul's truth first and foremost, because of the Piscean energy, and where structure is needed, where boundaries are needed, where rules are needed potentially, and to have that drive and determination, but it needs to be in alignment with our spiritual integrity, okay, moving forward. So if we're trying to move forward on our path, but we're doing things that are not aligned with our soul's truth, it's about making those adjustments or pivots in terms of how we can then follow our soul's truth. Okay. And to get to that point, we might have to unpick certain layers of, conditioning, programming, toxicity, self-limiting beliefs, whatever it might be, in order to get there. But Saturn is, of course, teaching us, Neptune is showing us. So this is enabling us to kind of break through the kind of wall that's there. But ultimately, it's about pursuing our soul's truth and connecting in with our intuition more in alignment with the North Node as well, to move forward in that kind of confident way of trusting the intuitive. I'm trying to speak faster than it's coming out. So clearly I am channeling here because I find this happens often, so apologies, but this is about, and I'm quite enthusiastic about this as well, because I feel this is a power move personally, but it is about getting ourselves in alignment with our soul's truth and following the path forward based on our soul's truth, and recognizing where that might not have been the case and what we need to do to pivot in order to get back on track, or to just align a bit more with our soul's truth. Because, as I say, 2.5 months, this window of opportunity, and then he moves into Aries, and we're still going to get taught from a place of sovereignty. But if we've got our ducks in a row in terms of our spiritual truth, we're absolutely confident this is my spiritual truth, and this is what I've learned from all those lessons and those experiences. You might not even associate them with Saturn, of course. You might just say, well, I went through that experience, it taught me that. That's still wisdom that we've gained. So understand you're carrying that forward into a new season. So it's about a new cycle that's more empowered because you're more wise within the soul. And also, if you're following your soul's truth, it's going to be more impactful when Saturn ingresses into Aries, because yes, we're going to be tested about our sovereignty. But if you've got all that in alignment, and this is about just standing up for yourself, then we're good to go. The preparatory work has been done, you could say. So I'm sending you all the best for this week. Of course, there's other stuff going on. We've got Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio, and Venus will also be moving into Sagittarius on the weekend. So that's coming up as well. So there's a lot still happening this week. So just embrace the energy and recognize what Saturn has been showing us during his time in Pisces, during the retrograde. He stations direct. It gives us that oomph to move forward, okay, even if it's with the strategizing that I mentioned before. And then preparing for when he is going to be ingressing into Aries and getting our ducks in a row in terms of soul alignment, spiritual integrity, soul's truth, okay? Sending you all the best. And of course, I will see you on the next video. But don't forget, like, subscribe, share, comment below if you wish to, and let me know if there's anything particular that you would like me to cover in one of these videos, like a particular planet or a particular aspect or a particular event coming up. Let me know. Okay, I'll see you on the next video.